Metcalf runs a 4.33. Let's start with him. 4.33 at 233 pounds. With some of the worst change of direction metrics we've ever seen for a wide receiver. What do we do with that?
Well, this is the fast. He, I think, had the most fascinating combine of anybody. Certainly this year, maybe ever. We are talking about a guy who was already, people were losing their minds over him before the combine. You know, these pictures emerging of him looking shredded and looking like Superman, you know, standing there shirtless in his workout facility, just looking ridiculous, right? Then it comes out that in the initial sort of body measurement stuff, he apparently has a 1.6% body fat rate, which is basically impossible. And to the point where NFL teams were questioning, like, what? And everyone was saying, well, that's the number that came right out of the body pod machine, which is supposedly the most accurate way of measuring these things. Now, I had a bunch of people on my Twitter timeline, guys with PhDs in, you know, human physiology and that kind of thing.
Are you name-dropping your Twitter followers?
I mean, I would if I remembered his name, but at the moment I just remember there's a guy with a PhD in human physiology who was basically saying, yeah, anything under 3%, you're dying. Like, your body needs subcutaneous fat to function.
It feels like
to
a red
repair
flag
itself.
for DK.
Right. So he says, one, there's a way bigger chance that the body pod screwed it up than he's actually at 1.6%. And two, if he was at 1.6%, it would be a way bigger problem than it would be a laudable quality.
Right.
Like, it's not, we shouldn't be celebrating that going, wow, look at this shredded guy. That's incredible.
So it's a red flag.
Yeah, you should be saying, if he's 1.6%, that's a medical issue we need to fix. So you've got that. Then you have this guy, monstrous, huge, runs 4.3, jumps out of the gym, 40-plus vertical, 27 bench press reps, which is a ridiculous number. All these numbers, the broad jump was good. These are all incredible stats. But then teamed with a 3-cone and a short shuttle time that weren't just bad, but they were slower than Tom Brady. Now,
well, Tom's mobile in the pocket.
Tom's
good footwork.
Tom Brady's combine workout went down in folklore as one of the most depressing examples of biomechanical ineptitude that humanity has ever seen.
It's in a straight line, maneuvers the pocket.
He was this.
It's not fair. It's hard when you're DK and you're going so fast. It's tough to throttle down.
This stork with complete absence of definition, loping his way around Indianapolis back in the day, and apparently did that quicker than DK Metcalf did whenever it came to changing directions. Like, that isn't just...
Maybe that means DK is going to be the best of all time, too.
As a quarterback. That isn't just strange. It's like, I need an explanation to that. That's weird to the point of that doesn't even make sense. Like, there's no way you should be able to move 4.3 in that direction over 40 and not be able to change direction faster than Tom Brady.
And we're on here every week. You'll say it. Mike Renner will say it. The most important thing in today's NFL is the ability to get open and separate.
Right.
So now we have DK Metcalf, who on film doesn't look like he's not the sharpest route runner anyway. The numbers don't really back up that he's the sharpest route runner. But, you know, our guy Zach Robinson helped with our wide receiver evaluations before getting hired by the Los Angeles Rams. He starts his job today. Good luck. Break a leg, Zach, over in with the Rams. But he liked Metcalf as the top wide receiver. Like, we like him as a wide receiver, as a first-round wide receiver. I think you have to be realistic about what you're getting, though. I don't think you're getting Julio Jones. I've seen Mike Evans comparisons. I mean, Mike Evans dominated at Texas A&M and has carried over that contested catchability and his ability to really take over games with the Bucs. I like my Martavis Bryant comparison. Martavis Bryant at his best, before all the off-field stuff, deep threat. He's going to get behind the defense once or twice a game, which is significant. That's huge. He'll drop one of those passes. He dropped a few Big Ben dimes when he was there, but the defense has to take care. It has to worry about him. And if you have a complement on the other side, it doesn't have to be as good as Antonio Brown, but you have a high-volume option on the other side. You have Martavis being a deep threat. Like, he'd be great opposite DeAndre Hopkins. I know they already have Will Fuller. Opposite a guy that could be the high-volume possession type of guy, I think Bryant has a ton of value in the league. I just worry. I don't think he's a 120, 140 target type of guy that you're just going to feed at all levels of the field.
Can I give you a potential comp?
Sure.
For DK Metcalf. I was just, as you were talking there, Steve, I don't like to listen to you much. So I was in my own head.
Wheels are turning.
Right. Thinking of potential comps for him.
I don't know why people think we don't like each other.
No, it's hard to believe. The thing is, if you watch his tape plus all these numbers, the thing that jumps out is his game is all about basically physically destroying opposition. Like there's a play that people like to pull out against Alabama.
Thanks, Matt.
Where somebody tried to press him at the line of scrimmage, and his thing is all about he defeats press, not by most people defeat press coverage by a bit of quickness at the line, quickly swipe the hands and then get going, right? He took his arm, basically clubbed the guy out of the way, and then ran clean past him, right? He just physically abuses people, which reminds me of a couple of people. One, Brandon Marshall. Remember when Brandon Marshall, right at the end of his career with the Jets, went to play the Seahawks, and him and Richard Sherman just had this war, like a physical war for the entire game. He won a few times, got open. Brandon Marshall, I don't think ever had the straight line speed that Metcalf apparently has, but that physicality reminds me of the same thing. The other guy who I think the same thing is true for is Terrell Owens. Now, obviously, T.O. is like a Hall of Fame caliber receiver, so that's setting the bar pretty high.
But a physical specimen.
Right, but from a stylistic point of view, T.O. was a guy who physically dominated cornerbacks. He was huge. He was fast. He was jacked. You look at the guy now, he's in his 40s. He's still got a six-pack. Looks like he could still go out there and play. Like, Metcalf wins by being physically way more intimidating than you are. And that's probably going to continue.
Well, yeah, he's way more jacked than I am.
Well, definitely you, but I'm thinking more NFL cornerbacks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's a monster. So, you okay with us putting him in the first round as wide receiver 1?
I mean, I think so. Look,
is this like a true upside situation? Is this
the
ones that we don't love? But
the change of direction thing is concerning and strange to the point of needing an explanation, right? But let's say it's legit and it holds up. What you have to ask yourself is, will that physical dominance continue at the next level? And I think the more you do this and the longer you look at these guys that are off the charts in terms of some form of physical dominance, that doesn't go away at the next level. You look at these guys and say, well, that's not going to continue in the NFL where guys are bigger, stronger, faster. But if you're like off the end of the scale, it does. Like he's 230 pounds, run a 4.3. Most NFL cornerbacks, even in this age of bigger corners, are 200. They're giving up 30 pounds to him. They can't run a 4.3. So he's still going to be physically dominant.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. When we talk about ceilings and floors, which I think are tough to define, trying to define his floor he's at least a deep threat. He's at least a guy that the defense has to account for, that I think can win against press for various reasons, like you said, and get behind the defense. So even if he catches 40 passes a year at 18 a pop, I mean, it's not really what you want from a first-round player, but there's value there.
Yeah.
If you have the complementary pieces around him. So that's DK Metcalf. If you call him a winner at the Combine, I don't know if that's fair to call him a straight winner at the Combine. When you look at the change of direction and all that stuff, I mean, it was kind of, don't double count this whole thing. He looks fast on tape. He looks big and physical on tape. He showed it at the Combine. If anything, the change of direction is way more concerning than anything, because how can he be the true number 1 wide receiver? I don't know if he can.
It's so strange because, there's that website, mockdraftable.com, that shows these sort of spider charts of everybody. And essentially the idea is I don't know how many segments that is, but if your spider chart is like a circle, you're high out towards the edges, you're basically perfect at everything.
The analytics
right?
people are very
they hate
the spider charts.
But it's interesting.
It's Pac-Man.
Right. When you look at his, it's like a circle everywhere except change of direction, which is like a giant hole in his...
That's your change of direction.
In his profile. So you look at this guy who is essentially the perfect wide receiver prospect from a measurable standpoint, and then it all collapses in for change direction. It's right to the middle. It doesn't just like dip. It vanishes. So I think that is completely... I can't think of a player who compares to that. A guy who was so good at everything else except one specific thing, they were among the worst you're ever going to see at it.
The cornerback version, the closest thing to the cornerback version for us is maybe Trey Waynes.
Right.
But he doesn't have the physical dominance. All we said about Waynes was his shuttle time was worse than his 40 time, which had happened like 7 times in the last 10 years for corners. So he was a good he's good at recovering vertical routes.
And even Trey Waynes' 3-cone was in the 19th percentile, not the 3rd or whatever. Right.
He was the 2nd in the 2nd percentile 3-cone, 3rd percentile 20-yard shuttle. Again, special thanks to Mock Draftable, who puts a lot of this stuff together. Nice, easy way to just,
whereas Trey Waynes, who was a guy whose change of direction was concerning, was in the 19th percentile in 3-cone and didn't have the same vertical, the same broad jump. He was right there at the 40, not the 10-yard split either. So again, it's just not, he doesn't have the same dominance and all the other things that Metcalf had, and his hole in his thing was worse. So I legitimately think that Metcalf's kind of profile coming out of the combine is completely and totally unprecedented, and therefore I have no idea what to do with it.
Great. Do what I said. He's Martavis Bryant. Move on.